Under Jerusalem's collapsed hills, an ancient silence 3,000 years deep has at last been shattered. Centuries had passed since whispers spoke of the lost tomb of King Solomon, a treasure house not only of gold but of wisdom and knowledge too great to reveal. Scholars had written it off as myth, a tale forged from scripture and legend instead of earth and stone. But legends possess a tenacious tendency to stick around the world, unwilling to perish even in the face of doubt. A tempest, a concealed passageway, and an inaccessible chamber have transformed everything now. What is unearthed has left experts stunned, believers shaken, and skeptics uncertain of what side of the fence they are on. The tale that follows is not only one of treasures and inscriptions but of mysteries that span faith, history, and human desire, a story in which the biggest secret might still be lying in wait in the shadows. If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel Spark Science, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. The myth of Solomon's tomb never fully disappeared. For centuries, his name had an aura of awe, mystery, and even fear around it. Solomon was no ordinary king. Scripture describes him as a man of breathtaking wisdom, riches that strained the imagination, and a kingdom that glowed like a torch in the ancient world. His rule during the 10th century BCE is Israel's golden age, an era of prosperity, grand building, and power across continents. And yet, amidst temples and palaces of grandeur and great trade empires, one question has troubled both historians and the faithful alike: where did this mythic king rest in peace? The Bible itself provides teasing hints but no definite leads. Solomon is credited with constructing the first temple of Jerusalem, a marvel built with cedar beams from Lebanon, plated gold walls, and such intricately cut stones that they seem to fit together without mortar. If his temple above Jerusalem could be a jewel, his tomb must then be no less remarkable. But the texts unaccountably say nothing about it. No sarcophagus has ever been found, no monument bearing his name, no chamber opened with certainty. For a king whose shadow spans Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, his burial place has eluded, as if intentionally removed from the map of time. Through the centuries, speculations abounded. Some thought that the tomb was directly beneath the Temple Mount, sealed by Solomon himself and protected by divine anger. Others believed he was buried in hidden caves under the Judean hills or within secret tunnels that only the ancient priests knew. Medieval knights excavated underneath Jerusalem, believing they could find a vault of holy riches. 19th-century explorers crawled over the stony hillsides of the city of David, following half-translated documents and native myths, only to leave with nothing but shattered stones and disillusionment. Archaeologist William F. Albright had once supposed that Solomon's final resting place had been lost from archaeology into myth. Some stories told of a tomb so filled with gold that its glow would blind robbers who dared to look at it. Other stories said it was guarded by traps and curses that would cause tunnels to fall in on trespassers. Others claimed it was not just a tomb but a library, a storehouse of old scrolls and tablets holding geometry secrets, medicines, and maybe even forbidden knowledge. If the temple itself could disappear after the Babylonian invasion, maybe the tomb had met the same end, consumed by time. Most of the academic world scorned the quest by the onset of the 20th century. To them, Solomon was half myth, half history, his reign a spur of scripture, and his tomb mere poetry. Archaeology looked elsewhere, to other kings and ruins that appeared more attainable. Still, the story would not fade. Even now, crowds murmur prayers at Jerusalem's western wall, believing that somewhere under their feet is the corpse of the wisest of kings. New archaeology over the past few decades only increased the enigma. Digs uncovered copper mines at Timma, perhaps Solomon's riches. Trade artifacts connecting Africa, Arabia, and India hinted at the very fleets according to the Bible. Had there been such tales, then surely his tomb would also be found. And then there was the discovery that burst the legend wide apart, a Silwan hillside, just beyond Jerusalem, where a flash rainstorm uncovered a tunnel that shouldn't have been there. At first sight, the hillside seemed normal, rough limestone, sparsely strewn shrubs, broken ground. But radar imaging said otherwise. Dr. Emily Carter and her colleagues, employing ground-penetrating technology, stood in shock at the discovery of straight lines and angular corners beneath the ground. Nature does not use that vocabulary. This was engineering. A tunnel network, complex and purposeful, lay hidden under their feet. Jerusalem was full of old cisterns and aqueducts, but this was not like that. The tunnels were too deep, too deliberate. Some came to nothing, terminating in blank walls. Others doubled back on themselves, curving like a puzzle. They were not accidents, they were decoys. Whoever constructed them had not wanted the unwelcome visitor to find his way. And worse, some of the tunnels seemed to be unstable, as if deliberately constructed to fall in if prodded. It was a daunting message. This was not just an entrance but a system of defense, designed to protect something valuable. And then there were the markings. Close to the first hollow in the hillside, there were faint carvings hidden under mud. Hebrew letters inscribed into rock, worn but still discernible. Cleaned, they showed a repeated sequence, 7 lines and 7 letters, the number associated with the building of the first temple. These were not graffiti. They were instructions, or threats. Carter realized the risk. The limestone was brittle, the location politically charged, and there were looters or radicals who could descend upon them at any time. But the potential reward for discovery outweighed the hazard. The tunnels, built with deliberation and paranoia, appeared nearly as if Solomon himself had planned them to be left untouched until the time appointed. At the far end of the tunnel, a great stone door blocked the path. To all but trained eyes, it was merely rock, but Carter recognized the truth. It was a seal, not of ornamentation but of protection. Penetrating it would take more than brute force, it would take wisdom. Radar readings indicated sham tunnels and booby-trapped collapses. One misstep would kill the entire team. For weeks, they analyzed each crack and groove, charting it in 3D, poring over ancient Hebrew fragments, even cross-referencing biblical passages about gates that open only to wisdom. Ever so gradually, ever so cautiously, they labored. And then one day the mountain creaked. Dust poured down, the slab moved, and a blast of stale air flooded into the tunnel, air stale for 3 millennia. With shaking flashlights, they gazed into the abyss. A chamber lay before, wider than anticipated, its walls softly radiating under the dust. The first beam of light fell on gold. Vessels stood along the walls, golden bowls incised with inscriptions, a tall and serious-looking slender menorah, silks and spices frozen by time, ivory carvings worn but intact. The tomb ceased to be legend. It was real. But the gold was not the real treasure. The walls were adorned with carvings, spirals, triangles, ratios, geometric accuracy that resembled blueprints. In the center of the chamber was a star, unmistakably looking like what subsequent generations referred to as the Star of David. But here, in its unadorned state, it looked older, attached to what myths referred to as the Seal of Solomon, a symbol of magical power. Around it were designs that hinted at higher mathematics and astronomy. It was more a library than a tomb written in stone. Clay tablets reposed in stacks, some disintegrating, some intact. One described the dimensions of the temple, identical to the Book of Kings. Another fell apart into riddles, sentences that more closely resembled a cipher: the light of knowledge is locked until the star is turned. Was this poetry, prophecy, or teaching? The echoes of the medieval, Key of Solomon, books suddenly sounded not medieval at all but based on something much older. And then there was the chest. Small, dense, and disturbing, it defied even their interest. Carter called it trespassing in someone else's memory. They documented it but did not open it. Their focus turned elsewhere, to an engraving buried in dust on the eastern wall. Gently washed, it showed Hebrew letters: "May wisdom guide my hand as stars guide sailors." It was concise, poetic, and haunting, reminiscent of Proverbs, which was customarily claimed by Solomon himself. Had the king spoken through stone over the expanse of ages? The world blew its top. Scholars bickered over authenticity, theologians chimed in, and the media touted Solomon's last words found. Was it real, or a product of a subsequent scribe eulogizing Israel's greatest king? Debates ran hot, but the authority of the words could not be gainsaid. And then a greater revelation, the name of Sheba. Carved in deliberate prominence alongside the inscription was a list of a royal trade: ivory, gold, frankincense. Queen Sheba, Bilqis in Islamic lore, had been a legend for centuries, but here was her name etched in stone, implying that her legendary encounter with Solomon was not mere myth but history. The implications were mind-boggling: alliances that redirected trade, exchanges of knowledge and culture, and the prospect that Solomon's wisdom was supplemented by ideas from Arabia and Africa. Near the Sheba inscription, a ring was discovered, golden, thick, and embossed with a crude six-pointed star. Tests verified that its metallurgy was 10th century BCE. Could this be Solomon's ring, the legendary seal, which was said to ensure dominion and wisdom? The find stunned the world. Rabbis, priests, and imams each appropriated it as confirmation of their faith. Governments quarreled over possession. Scholars divided between faith and doubt. Amid all the commotion, one thing was certain: the chamber's body contained nothing. Solomon's riches, inscriptions, and even his own ring had been discovered, but the man himself were still absent. AI scans indicated deeper empty space beyond the chamber, maybe other rooms, maybe nothing. To investigate them would take permits and diplomacy not likely to be forthcoming in Jerusalem. For the time being, the tomb's darkest secrets are locked away. What Carter and her team had revealed was something greater than an archaeological excavation. It was a nexus of history, religion, and legend,